This is your boy, Jimmy J, touching out that 832, and I'm on it all day, every day, from Pennsylvania, PA, all the way to motherfucking Bombay. Y'all know how I do it. Y'all know how I do it. I just wanted to send a RIP to my boy, Denny Green, former head coach of the Minnesota Vikings and former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. He also coached the Stanford Cardinals in the NCAA. He coached Northwestern University Wildcats, and he was a disciple of the West Coast offense. But I wanted to tell people how important Dennis Green was because Dennis Green had made a couple of guys' careers. You know, two. Of course, he coached two Super Bowl winning coaches, or the assistants served under him. Brian Billick, Tony Dungy, Tyrone Willingham, who became the first black coach to coach Notre Dame. He served under him. I mean, Dennis Green was the guy as the equal opportunity employer in the Minnesota Vikings. He started out with his first quarterback, Rich Gannon, who would ultimately flourish more at Oakland toward the end of his career than he did at the Minnesota Vikings. He gave Brad Johnson an opportunity. He gave players like Warren Moon his second chance after the Houston Oilers ditched him and gave him the 86. He gave him a second chance. He gave people like Chris Carter a second chance. After Buddy Ryan ditched him, left with a cocaine addiction, with a child, Dennis Green took him in as a head coach, and basically he flourished under Dennis Green more than any other head coach. Another gentleman he gave an opportunity was Jeff George. And, we talk about terrible quarterback. Jeff George was at the end of the road, but he flourished in the Randy Moss system. Well, I ain't gonna say Randy Moss system, but it seems like a Randy Moss system. He flourished under Dennis Green's system pretty well. Another guy he gave an opportunity was Randall Cunningham. When no NFL teams would take this dude, Dennis Green gave Randall Cunningham his second chance. After being ditched and pretty much, almost out of almost out of the league. So that's a true example of giving people second chance opportunities. I can't name every player or every assistant coach he gave an opportunity to. He did give Sherman Lewis an opportunity after leaving Green Bay, who was the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. So he was known for being a person that gave people opportunity. Whether you was white or black, he was an equal opportunity employer as a head coach. If you needed an opportunity, a second chance, Dennis Green was the man to give you that opportunity. And there's not too many people out there, because some people will claim they're an equal opportunity employer, especially in NFL. But soon as you have a bad game, he'll yank you out. You know what I'm saying? Dennis Green was not like that. You had to have several bad games for him to yank you out. But he gave people a fair shake. That's what I remember about Dennis Green. He gave people a fair shake. And we don't have that anymore in the NFL like that. We don't have too many guys like that that's going to give you a fair shake. He gave Tony Dungy his second defensive coordinator job, and he put him on to Tampa Bay, ultimately building that franchise. But he would ultimately win a Super Bowl at Indianapolis. Brian Billick, a year after he left, became the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, he ultimately would become the a Super Bowl champion. He gave Brian Billick, he was the offensive coordinator during that tenure, uh, during his tenure at the Minnesota Vikings. So he gave people chances. He gave people chances. Monty Kiffin, after getting the '86 with the New Orleans Saints, who's known as the co-founder of the Tampa 2 defense, he gave Monty Kiffin a defensive coordinator slash defensive assistant job. So he was fair across the board. You know, there's nothing you can't take away from him. You can take away from him there's nothing you can take away from him as a head coach. You know, his offense was one of the most unstoppable offenses in history. That, he lit up the scoreboard. You know, if you was a Minnesota Viking fan at the old Metrodome, you had a treat. He ran the scoreboard up on your ass. It was just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. He had a few good defensive teams with under Tony Dungy, but they didn't get over the hump. But Dennis Green, we also got to remember, in his 10 seasons there, he only missed the playoffs twice in his entire season and had one losing season at Minnesota. I believe Dennis Green should be in the Hall of Fame. I think he should have probably gotten in the Hall of Fame probably a little bit before Tony Dungy. Arizona, he went to a fucked up situation. I really don't view that as a failure because he went to a fucked up situation and they didn't try to build anything. They build after the fucking fact, but that was some hoe ass shit on the ownership. You know, and that was one of those situations they expected the Negro to clean up, or if he didn't clean up, pretty much he gets the blame placed on him. So I don't really consider that a failure, but everybody remembers him as the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and that's who we'll remember him as. 97 and 62 head coaching record at the Minnesota Vikings, 4-8 in the playoffs. But we're not gonna harp on his failure because we will remember Dennis Green as being the dude that lit up the scoreboard on offense and gave people an opportunity, an equal opportunity as a head coach. You can say what you want about his personal life. This ain't it. But Dennis Green gave everybody an equal opportunity. Anytime you give Jeff George an opportunity to look good in your offense, you a motherfucking bad motherfucker. Real talk. You a bad motherfucker if you give Jeff George an opportunity. You equal. He gave everybody a fair shake, and that's what I'll remember him outside of the offensive scoreboards offensive firepower he lit up. That's what I'll remember about Dennis Green. And after I get off this video, I wanted to send a special rest in peace to my brother, Lewis Jr. Tate, out of the 901 area code. I wanted to send a special shout out to Latricia Williams, Latoya Tate, and the Tate family out of Memphis. You know what I'm saying? My thoughts and prayers are with the entire Tate family. I just wanted to end that video on that note, and I'll holler at everybody.